Welcome back everybody to another episode on the channel. So I got to thinking, just the other day about some different video ideas since, the whole coronavirus thing is going around and we're practicing our social distancing, if you will. And so I've been thinking of a lot of different video ideas, just sitting around the house, not being able to really do much, working on the boat and stuff. And today's episode, I got to thinking of some good video ideas, and I wanted to go over my top 5 lures or baits for beginner fishermen. So if you're somebody who's watching this that's new to bass fishing and you're just looking for some good lures to try out, or if you know somebody who is, I'm going to go over my top 5 lures or baits that are going to work really good for a beginner bass fisherman. So really quick guys, before we start out this video, I got to talk about these suckers right here, these sunglasses right here. This is a pair of sunglasses that this company Toro reached out to me on Instagram. Actually, they hit me up and they make these sunglasses. Now I am one of those people who is pretty good at just throwing my sunglasses around, being kind of careless with them, to be honest with you guys. For the most part, I honestly buy sunglasses from Walmart. I will just go buy the cheapest pair of sunglasses from Walmart, usually that are polarized. So I don't invest in a lot of money into sunglasses because I end up losing them. But when they reached out to me, I was like, heck yeah, nice pair of sunglasses to go in the boat. I think I'm just gonna keep these suckers in the boat. I've had some time to just kind of sit around and try these suckers out. I really like the lenses on here. These are really nice polarized lenses. That they are, I don't know, probably some of the best that I've been through. And I'm just not huge on sunglasses, but really like them. The frame is super durable on these, and so there's a lot I love about these. The fact that I can basically just beat these up, no questions asked. I've already been doing that pretty much since I got them, just kind of throwing them around and whatnot. But super cool sunglasses. So if you guys want to check out Toro, I'll link them down in the description below. You can go check them out. These things are very durable, and I'm just gonna keep them in the boat and just beat these suckers up this year and see how they do. Right, so now into the meat and potatoes of the video, guys. So top 5. So the first one that we're gonna start out with, guys, and you may have already guessed it, that is gonna be a swim jig. Now, I'm gonna pull one out, one of my favorites here, and show you guys that really quick. Here we have one of my favorite swim jigs that I would suggest for a beginner. That is a black and blue swim jig, guys, if you can see that. Out of all the colors I would go with, guys, keep it simple. When it comes to fishing a swim jig, I would go with black and blue. It's gonna work in most of your situations. Absolutely love a swim jig. I think it's great for a beginner because of how easy it is to fish. Buy yourself a 1/4 ounce black and blue swim jig, guys. Put a paddle tail on there, rage swimmer, whatever, and hands down, easy bait to use. That's why I recommend a swim jig, guys. The fact that you can take this thing and throw it just about anywhere you want. You don't have to worry about it. There's no fancy retrieve with it. I know some guys will sit there and just bob their rod as they retrieve a swim jig. You don't have to do any of that. Toss this thing out there, let it sink a little bit, and then just bring it back. That's all you have to do with the swim jig. If it gets hung up in grass, you feel some grass grabbing on it, just give it a couple pops, it'll come right through the grass. The swim jig is one of the easiest lures to fish, in my opinion, and I think it's really good for a beginner simply because you pretty much just can't get this snagged anywhere. I mean, unless you're around a lot of wood, for the most part, this thing will pull through grass really well. It just is a super easy lure to use. You just throw it out, you just reel it back, and when you feel the bite, you just lean into it. That's all you have to do. So I would recommend a black and blue swim jig because I think that color just does well in general. But like I said, a swim jig is a great lure to start out with. I think, in my opinion, it's one of the easiest lures for a beginner angler to use. So that would be my very first one for you guys, is a swim jig. I buy all my jigs and get all my jigs from Super K Jigs. I'll link them down below. What I love about these jigs, guys, is they're all hand-tied jigs. So this skirt doesn't just rip off on the first fish or two. This thing holds up in the long end. So I'll link them down below in the description as well. Get yourself a hand-tied jig for the most part, guys. Hand-tied is huge. Your skirts are gonna last a whole hell of a lot longer, and that's what I love about the Super K jigs. They're all hand-tied. But I will link Super K down below in the description. You guys can go check them out. Also, I have a referral code for you guys down in the description as well. I think it's WW20. It'll get you guys 20% off of your order. So if you want to check out some jigs, go ahead, check yourself one out. So coming in at number 2 on my list for the best beginner lures for anglers is going to be either a spinnerbait or a chatterbait. Now, I honestly really don't care which one you use. You can go with the chatterbait or the spinnerbait. For me personally, I'd probably go with a chatterbait. Pulls through grass a little bit better in my opinion, and I've had more luck off of a chatterbait than I have a spinnerbait. But I kind of put these two hand in hand, in all honesty, guys. They're pretty comparable baits. They have the blades on them to give vibration. This has a smaller blade on there. If you're fishing dirty water, I'd maybe go with the spinnerbait over the chatterbait if it's super muddy and whatnot. But a spinnerbait or a chatterbait, guys. What I love about these two baits, like I said, they're great beginner baits because of the fact that you don't have to do much with them. You could throw a spinnerbait on, you could throw a trailer on it if you want. Chatterbait, same thing. I would probably throw a trailer on the chatterbait, but for the most part, you can just throw these suckers on and toss them out there and give a steady retrieve. There's nothing fancy to them. You can slow it down, you can pick it up, you can burn it back to the boat really fast. You can slow it down and go real slow. You can stop, pause. There's a lot of things you can do with it, but the spinnerbait is just the old tried and true method that has been around forever. So like I said, great lure to try out. They're very easy to fish. There's nothing complicated about them. Yeah, they're gonna work great. Chatterbait or spinnerbait, one of these suckers will get it done for you. Now, most lures, guys, before I jump into the third lure here, now I guess I didn't really touch on it in the beginning, but you know, most lures are pretty easy to fish for the most part when it comes to bass fishing, but there is some lures that take a little more practice with. Like a topwater frog, I probably wouldn't say would be your #1 lure to fish with. So I'm kind of, like I said, I'm going through lures that I think are easier for beginner fishermen to kind of get the hang of, rather than fishing those certain baits that are a little more complicated, take a little more practice with to kind of get that skill down. The next lure, guys, that I think is a great lure for beginner fishermen, especially if you want to get on a topwater bite, is a buzzbait. Reason I love a buzzbait, guys, for a beginner fisherman, great bait, gives off a lot of vibration, a lot of disturbance on the surface. It's super easy to use. All you gotta do is tie this sucker on, throw it out there, and reel it back. As long as this is on top of the water, popping, making noise, you're doing the right thing. So it's a pretty simple bait to use. All you're doing is throwing it out and bringing it back. Pretty much the only thing you have to do with this. You're not popping it, you're not walking the dog with it, none of that. All you're doing, throwing it out and reeling it back. So it's a great beginner lure because there's not much to it. All you got to do is you can put a trailer on them if you want. You don't have to. I have a black and blue trailer on this thing. You don't have to have a trailer on these. I personally just like to switch it up and throw them on there sometimes. I caught my personal best largemouth off of this buzzbait right here, actually, with no trailer on there. So just depends on your preference and what you want to do. I'd suggest a black buzzbait. I don't know why. I think black buzzbaits just work really well. I don't really have a brand preference with a buzzbait. As long as it's black for the most part, I think they work really well. So black buzzbait, super easy to use. All you gotta do is throw it out, reel it back, and you're good to go. So next on the list, guys, is going to be a Texas rigged Senko, okay? I love fishing a Senko. It's actually one of the first baits that I ever used, but I love using soft plastics, and I think that a Texas rig is one of the oldest rigs and oldest setups in bass fishing, and a Senko is one of like the oldest plastics. You know, it's a tried and true method. So a Texas rig Senko for that. I'll show you guys the gear for that really quick here. First off, guys, with the Senko, all we're doing is using an EWG hook on here. You can use worm hooks on here. I personally just use an EWG hook here. Usually I use about a 4/0. All you're doing with this, guys, for a Texas rig is you're going to, usually you slide on your line the weight that you want. You can fish this actually weightless if you want, the Senko, but all you're doing with this is really just putting the tip of the hook in till you hit the curve there, and then you're just poking through, sliding up the hook here, and then turning so you have it like so. And then we're just gonna go through the worm. And basically what is great about this is now your hook is in line and you just tuck the tip of the hook like this. So now we have a perfectly weedless bait. This is great for beginners because a lot of times you get snagged on a lot of different stuff. So with this bait, it is completely weedless and you don't have to worry about getting snagged. The green pumpkin Senko, great plastic to have. You could switch it up and do a lot of different plastics. I would recommend for a beginner, just going ahead, going with the green pumpkin Senko. Keep it simple. When you're trying to fish this rig, it's gonna take a little bit of practice, kind of feeling the bite a little bit, but once you get it down, this is gonna be a great bait for you guys. So I would say a green pumpkin Senko, Texas rig Senko is gonna be great for you guys. You can use whatever bullet weight you want. Usually you have a bullet weight above here. You can use whatever size bullet weight you want, depending on what you have for water. I think about a 1/4 ounce will do most of it, especially if you're pond fishing. If you have current, you might have to go up to 3/8 to 1/2 ounce, but usually I fish like a Texas rig Senko on like a 1/4 ounce. And then if I'm in some deeper water and stuff, I'll usually go to like a 1/2 ounce. So Texas rig Senko, guys, great lure for beginner, snag proof, weedless. You can get it through a lot of different stuff and it catches a lot of fish. So the last bait that I have for you guys, lure that I have, is going to be a 1/2 ounce, 3/8 to 1/2 ounce Flippin Jig. Now I would go black and blue, but what I love about a jig, guys, is it's a great lure year round. You can take this thing, throw it up against wood, flip cut banks, all sorts of different stuff. You can even throw it out in deep water and drag it on the bottom. But I would suggest going with a black and blue in color. I really like black and blue because it's really good in darker stained water, but it's just a good all-around color. So this is the Super K Kaplunk jig. It's just a really good overall jig. It's really good for flipping around a lot of different stuff. And I like to throw on a crawfish trailer on this guy, guys. But I think a jig is really good for a beginner, guys. I think it's just one of those lures you can throw out, just drag it on the bottom, kind of pop it a little bit, reel up your slack, pop it again, just dragging it along the bottom, hopping it over stuff, especially cut banks. These are really good, guys, around a lot of like thick wood, big structure like that. You want a good heavy jig with a good heavy rod, but I think it's a really good bait for a beginner because there's not a lot to it. You're just throwing it out there, letting it pop along the bottom. So I think that a jig is just a great lure all around. I always have a jig tied on year round, always have one permanently tied on, like I said. But a jig, great lure for a beginner. I would suggest black and blue in color. If you're fishing more clear water, maybe go natural green pumpkin with a little bit of orange in there, or go with a white jig. I love using black and blue and white for the most part when I'm fishing on the river. So can't go wrong with a flipping jig, guys. So that is gonna wrap it up for the video, guys. Let me know down in the comments below your favorite beginner lure when you were starting out bass fishing. If you guys have just started out bass fishing, you kind of clicked on this video to figure that out, let me know in the comments one of your lures that you're excited to try out this year. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Like I said, guys, I was just going over my top 5 lures that are just great for beginners because they're super easy to use. There's not a lot to them. There's no technique to them, really. You just kind of could throw them out there, reel them back, or throw them out and drag them off of the bottom. There's not a whole lot to them, but they're great beginner lures for new anglers. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next one.